Welcome to the Fight with Teddy Atlas, presented by Dynamic Striking. I'm Ken Rideout, joined as always by Hall of Famer Teddy Atlas. Teddy, how you doing?
Good, Ken. Good to see you. How you doing? How's your beautiful family?
Everyone's doing good. We had a nice quiet Father's Day yesterday. Kids all doing good. Everything's good.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. A little belated. Hope everybody had a great day, and I'm glad you had a great day. And I had a great day with my family and my grandchildren, my children. The only thing missing is my son, and that's a big thing to be missing out in Vegas with the Raiders, of course. But guess what? The good news is they get one vacation a year, the NFL. It's not called not for long for no reason. You got to be dedicated to make it in that business. Let me tell you, I'm proud of my daughter. She's a lawyer. I'm proud of my son. I'm proud of both of them for their grit and determination to get to where they've gotten. But he'll be coming home Saturday for 3 weeks, and we'll have our whole family together. We'll have our 3 grandchildren together, and everybody. Yesterday was great, but we were missing him and his son and his wife. But we were down in LBI with my son-in-law and his family, our family, and I was digging holes. I was the hole digger. I was the hole digger. I was digging a lot of holes in the sand dunes over there. I hope nobody falls in them because I dug a couple very deep ones.
Well, you know what they say, Teddy. When you're in a deep hole, stop digging.
Well, I did. I didn't hit water, but I did stop digging, not because of that great advice, and it is great advice. I stopped digging because my freaking back gave out.
Hey guys, want to take a minute to give a shout out to our newest sponsor, Magic Spoon. If you've heard us talk about this before, it's the healthiest cereal out there. I used to love indulging in cereal when I was younger, but most of the cereals today are so full of sugar and carbs that I've had to forego my favorite indulgence. But with the addition of my 4 children, we now have cereal in the house all the time, so it was refreshing to find Magic Spoon with 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein per serving, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. We've been eating a lot of this stuff, only 140 calories per serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. We've been getting the variety pack, 4 flavors, cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. The kids usually mix the cocoa and peanut butter to make a peanut butter cup cereal. Again, I've been snacking on this stuff like crazy, but it has so much goodness in it. I've been doing it guilt-free. Go to magicspoon.com/Atlas to grab a variety pack and try it today. Use our promo code ATLAS, ATLAS, at checkout to save $5 on your first order. That's magicspoon.com/Atlas. Use the promo code ATLAS to save $5 on your first order. Hey guys, today's episode is also supported by Athletic Greens, the all-in-one daily drink to support better health and peak performance. I love this stuff. I've been saying it for the last couple of years. These guys spent 10 years with the top nutritionists and doctors to create this formula. It's made from 75 whole food sourced ingredients. It's got vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, and antioxidants. Consider it like an insurance policy for your body's health and immunity. This is all you need to stay on top of your immunity with 12 servings of fruit and vegetables. No need for multivitamins or whatever else you take, and Athletic Greens has you covered. Special offer for our listeners, Athletic Greens has given 10 free travel packs with your first order. So whether you're looking to boost your energy levels, support your immune system, or address gut health, Athletic Greens is the way to go. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/Atlas to claim the special offer of 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Atlas. Well, we had a busy weekend of fights. Obviously, UFC is always in action, but we had a lot of boxing matches this weekend. Let's get right into it. There's a lot of stuff to cover. Jermall Charlo was in action against Juan Montiel. Juan Montiel probably gave him a little more trouble than what Charlo was anticipating. Charlo gets the unanimous decision, but Montiel finished strong and had moments in the fight where he looked good. What'd you think about that one?
Listen, here there's a lot to a simple fight in this case. First of all, Macias was awkwardly clever. He was awkward. He was unorthodox. Not an easy style to deal with. There's no doubt about that. At all. But there's no doubt he was also knocked out by a smaller guy. Well, he's not so damn small, but the former junior middleweight champion, Munguia, Jaime Munguia, had knocked him out. And so he gets in there with Charlo, and he goes the route. And it was a good fight. It wasn't a bad fight. It was the best fight of all the fights in boxing that night because they were all one-sided, to be honest. But this fight was one-sided. Only one guy was going to win, but it was a competitive one-sided fight. Does that make sense, Ken? You know that it was a competitive one-sided fight, and Macias had his moments where he kind of, I don't know, I'm not saying he exposed Charlo, but Charlo was easy to hit. Let me just get right to the point. He wasn't that hard to hit. He got hit some shots I'm sure they're not happy about. I looked at him a couple times and I didn't hear any commentating about it, but he got so squared sometimes, so parallel with his feet. When you get that parallel, they better correct that because he's got a real good trainer. But when you get that square in a ring, you become more of a surface, easier to hit, in other words. There's more to hit when you're squared up like that. And he was squared up where there was a lot to hit, and especially with uppercuts. He was getting caught with uppercuts. Listen, he won the fight. I guess in most people's opinions, he dominated the fight. But again, I thought it was a competitive one-sided fight because Macias was so game, so gritty, so awkward. At the beginning, I wasn't sure. I thought he was going to be just awkwardly clever surviving. And then it switched. He switched gears. He switched mentalities. And he started trying to win, which made it obviously more interesting. Here's the thing, though. Having said that, give credit for that, give credit where credit's due. But I'm tired of seeing these fights, Ken. I don't know if you're with me on this and if the fans are with me, but I know the fans are because they talk to me and they tell me, yeah, we're kind of tired of this in-house stuff where whoever, and I'm not picking on one particular promoter, all of them, whether it's Hearn, whether it's PPC with Heyman, whether it's Top Rank with ESPN, or whatever. There's only a few power brokers out there now. And they all do this freaking in-house thing, Ken, where, like even in the Macias fight, which was the only really decent one of the night, with all of them, they were all fighting. All the networks were on display. All the promoters were on display. They all had something going, or the zone was going. Everybody was going, and they were all one-sided. This was the best one of the lot, but you knew who was going to win, just like in this fight. Only one guy was going to win. It was set up that way. And you just get tired of, again, there's each one of these freaking promoters, and listen, their sugar daddy is the network. Yeah, I want to use a strong word. I want to get people's freaking attention. That's their sugar daddy, the network. That's, without them, they can't do it. That's the one that funds them. That's the one that supplies them the money. And that's their partner. And it's like a show game, like a con game to the fans out there. Like, we'll put our star out there. They all have their stars, right? Some have more than others. We'll put one of our stars out there, one of our marquee guys out there, so we'll draw the fans in. But we'll put him in with a guy he can't, that he has no real danger against. That it's really, it could only go one way. And you're cheating the fans. You're not giving them a competitive fight, and you're hurting the sport. And even the brand of your network is getting hurt because people aren't that stupid. I know you think they are, but they're really not. After a while, they start to go away a little bit. They're not gonna stay with you. I know they're gonna be there for the big ones, and they throw them a bone every once in a while. But on the whole, you get what you got Saturday too often, where their in-house fighter is being protected, and they're not in competitive fights, and they expect people to come out and watch the damn thing, and some people do, but a lot of people are starting to, they're starting to go to the gates. They're starting to leave the arena. And one of the reasons why the UFC, and I've said this before, continues to grow on a regular basis, where weekly they will outdo the numbers usually of a regular show. I'm not talking about, listen, these big cable networks, Showtime, they have an advantage because they have a built-in base. They have a major cable network. I get it. But when you really break it down the right way, break it down the proper way, and you look at the numbers, well, UFC's kicking their backside on regular shows. And again, I'm not talking about when Canelo fights. I'm not talking about when Fury fights, against Joshua or against Wilder. Those are different universe of numbers they're going to do. But on the regular shows, UFC's kicking their behind. And because they put competitive fights on. There's a reason why they got this documentary series that's been showing every week, The Four Kings on Showtime, because it's about the 80s. It's about Hagler, Hearns, Duran, and Sugar Ray Leonard. It's about when there was great talent. There's always good talent around. There was great talent then, but the main thing was they were fighting each other. They were freaking fighting each other, all the time. And that's why the 80s is still relevant. That's why they talk about it. That's why they did a documentary series on it. For that reason. They ain't doing no documentary series on this stuff. That I can tell you. Nobody's saying, hey, that's our next docu is going to be this period of time. No, I don't have to be a TV executive to know that conversation, that meeting, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. So I'm just... I watched. It was okay fight. It was a decent fight. I gave it its dues, which I'm always going to do. I'm going to tell the truth. But just get tired of this shell game, of this con game, of all these power brokers, these main promoters I just named, where they're using their network to play a game with the fans. It's the same thing. I mean, it's like going to look in Macy's window. You go and you look in Macy's window around Christmas time, and you're going to have something great in there because they want to get you in the store. And then you get in the store, and in boxing terms, you know what would happen, Ken? You get in the store and you say, wow, I really love what I just saw in your window over there. I'd like to get that. Oh, sorry, we're all out. Sorry, we're all out. I could just see you, Ken, around Christmas time. You go in there with all your kids, all your beautiful kids, right? You got a whole team there, and you go a whole stable of fighters. You go walking in, and hey, my kids, I'm glad you put that window up. It did the job. It got me in here. I'm in your store. I'd like to get 5 of them, 4 of them. You have 4 kids. I'd like to get 4 of them, please. Sorry, Mr. Rideout, because of course they know who you are. Sorry, Mr. Rideout. We don't have them in inventory. What? What do you mean? You have it in your window? No, yeah, but we just put it up there to get you in the store. But we got something else we'd like to say. I mean, I'm tired of it. I want to make sure the fans are that I'm with you. I'm tired of, because you come up to me and you tell me this. I'm tired of that shell game, of that BS game, that you put it in a Macy's window, you get them in the store, and then you got nothing in the warehouse. You got nothing in the inventory. You got nothing. And again, the same thing with all these guys, with every freaking one of them. Whether we're going to get to each one individually, but whether it was the Munguia fight that night, it was Charlo we're talking about, Inoue, and then we'll talk about some of the other ones that were on. There was distractions. But it's the same thing. You know who's going to win. I mean, I don't want to see Charlo. I mean, they've made a lot of money, the Charlo brothers. Heyman's taking good care of them. There's no doubt about it. But Have they served the fans? Have they served the network? I don't know. I mean, who they're fighting? I mean, I'd like to see them step out of that. And I don't want to see that. Late at night, sometimes I watch Hogan's Heroes. Hogan's Heroes was a good show, way back. Maybe you're too young, Ken. But Hogan's Heroes was great. It was great. But so sometimes I'll flick it on. I see it at 11 at night. But after a while, enough Hogan's Heroes, will you? Enough. I don't want to see Hogan's Heroes no more. I want to see something new. I want to see something that I don't know what the freak is going to happen. I want to see something new. Where I don't just see Sergeant Schultz saying, I see nothing. And I know Rob would get that up for me, Sergeant Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. But I want to see something else. And you're not seeing anything else. These guys, it's Hogan's Heroes over and over again. I want to see Charlo fight one of the champs. I want to see him fight somebody, one of the top guys. I want to see him fight different guys. I like him, but he got hit a lot the other night. I don't know if he's getting better. I don't know if he's regressing a little bit or staying the same. Really, because he's not, maybe he doesn't feel going into fights that he has to be better or has to be, anything special other than be in shape, and he's going to beat these guys because he's supposed to beat them, because that's the message that obviously he understands and obviously that he gets, that's the plan, that you're being taken care of to a certain degree. Listen, go make all the money you want, but he's a champion for a little bit of a time now. Let me start seeing him fight other guys. I'd like to see him even fight Munguia, who fought that night.
That's what I was going to say.
Matter of fact, Munguia knocked out the guy he fought. So make that's interesting. Munguia knocked him out. I know styles make fights, but so what? Munguia knocked him out. Charlo went the distance with this guy. Make that fight. Make something else.
Well, speaking of Munguia, he stopped Kamil Szeremeta in the 6th round on the zone main event earlier in the day, and he looked good doing it. Moves to, I think, 37-0 with 30 knockouts. Now, granted, he hasn't been in there with like world-class guys per se, but he's doing what he has to do, and I think that fight almost sells itself. Did you get a chance to see the Munguia fight, and what'd you think of him?
Yeah, give me the pronunciation of his opponent.
Szeremeta.
All right, Szeremeta. All right, listen. Szeremeta. Listen, Szeremeta, game kid, they've thrown him to the wolves. I mean, he was just there to get beat up.
Yep.
This poor guy, they put him in with nobody. They built his record to a beautiful record, undefeated, and then they say, okay, kid, it's time. Yeah, that's we're throwing you in, and they throw him in with Triple G, and then they say, okay, now as a gift, because you got beat up in that fight, and we threw you in there. Let's treat you a little bit the same. You thought I was going to say a little bit better. Let's treat you a little bit the same, and let's throw you in with Munguia now. And so they throw him in with Munguia. And Munguia just has target practice with him. Game guy. He gets forced to really basically quit. I think he quit, right? He quit. He basically quit. I mean, that's terrible. They beat him into submission. I don't mean to laugh. But these people can be. They can be. They could be rough. They really can. If they're your friends, you better you better look for new friends. It's not fun. And so he gets built up. He gets a built-up record. He gets thrown in with Triple G, gets beat up there, gets thrown in with Munguia, gets beat up there. And again, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I want to see Munguia with somebody else. Same thing. I think he's improved. I think he's gotten better. At the beginning, he was just a big, young George Foreman. Big, really, he's huge. I don't know what weight that fight was at. What weight was that fight at?
Middleweight.
Middleweight. So he's moved up from junior middleweight to middleweight because you knew that had to happen. Because he's young. He's what is he, 22 years, 23 years old? He's very young, Munguia. and he can still learn. He can still be formed. Big giant guy. He had the junior middleweight title. Then he moved up. Now I guess he's at middleweight. I'm going by what you're telling me. And what is he, 22, 23 years old, I think?
24.
24. And he's like a young George Foreman. I mean, he throws that uppercut. He's just so big and strong. And like I said, he's getting a little better. He's getting a little bit better because he's a little raw. He's a little green around the ears as far as technique. But he's getting better. What could I say, Ken? I'm tired of these one-sided fights. Too often we're getting those Saturday nights like that, where they're just playing the public for fools. Again, they put their star on, one of their stars on, and basically it's a setup win. I mean, come on. I said enough. That's it.
To your point, every network did it. I mean, Showtime had the Charlo fight, DAZN had Munguia, and ESPN rounded it out with Inoue in a one-sided, absolute vicious beatdown of Michael Dasmarinas, third-round stoppage knocked him down 3 times on body shots. Like you said about Munguia, it was just target practice. He just beat the crap out of him.
Listen, Ken, you're right. Again, I love Inoue. Love him. He's one of my top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Love him. He takes nothing for granted. He's always ready. He's always prepared. He's always smart. He's everything. He's the monster. That's his name. He's the pride of Japan. He's, there's no shtick to him. There's no fooling around doing something to get attention. His attention is gotten by the way he fights. He goes to the body. He sets up the body punches beautifully with combinations to the head. And he's got quick enough hands where he could go up top and then get it downstairs. When he gets your attention up top, it's planned. It's meticulous. It's educated. It's smart. You go upstairs, then get it downstairs where you find an opening to debilitate you with a punch to the liver. He controls range beautifully. He's got great legs. I didn't notice until the other night how good his legs are and how much better they've gotten. He's got legs like Lomachenko. Lomachenko and at one time Mikey Garcia used to have the best legs in boxing. And I'm telling you, in a way, you don't got to run around. You don't got to move around. You don't got to scooter around, motorcycle around the ring like Ali to have great legs. And he's got great legs. He goes in and out. He controls range with those legs. Tremendous legs. And he's always set. He's always balanced. He doesn't waste a damn thing. He'll miss every once in a while, but very rarely, and when he misses, he's not out of position. He's always balanced, always where he needs to be. His technique is great. His mindset is great. He took his opponent. How do you pronounce his opponent's name, Ken?
Dasmarinas.
He took Dasmarinas. Well, he took him apart. Now, Dasmarinas is 30-3 with one draw, and now he's been knocked out 2 times. He was knocked out before. Now he got, of course, knocked out Saturday night. Again, I said it. I love Inoue, but put him in with a champ or the top guys. I know he was in there in that war not too long ago, which we're grateful for, but nobody thought it was going to be a war, let's be honest, with the former champion, right, Ken?
Yep, Nito Donaire.
With Donaire, he was in there with the former. It was a war. It was a great fight, but nobody thought it would be. They thought Donaire was shot. They thought it was over the hill. They didn't expect that, and he got tested in that fight. Very tested in that fight by the former champion. And the new champion, give him credit, Donaire just won a title now. So, yeah, but on the most, other than that, and I'll give you that. I'm not ignoring it just to get my way, but let's put him in with other guys now. He's that good. Let's put him in with not just a guy. That's the problem. They're just putting him in with guys. I don't want to see Hogan's Heroes no more. I don't want to see just guys. He's special. He's special. I just shut off my fax machine. Yes, I have a fax machine. Yes, I have. Yes, I have a stubborn fax machine. It's got its own mind, its own life. You turn it off, it comes back on. And everyone should have a fax machine. Forget about this fancy stuff that Ken has, you guys wiring this, wiring that, or fax. The fax machine. Just old-fashioned. Somebody sends you a fax, you get a piece of paper like this, you look at it, it's all right, yeah, okay. I'm going to answer this fax, and I'm going to send it back. A fax. No email, none of that stuff, fax, baby. So, listen, in a way, I love him. One of the top 3 fighters in the world right now, no doubt about it, at least in my estimation, pound for pound. But I don't just want to see him with bodies, with guys anymore. I want to see him with, like I said about the other guys. You know, I really do. I want to see him with, I don't want to use the word credible, but I want to see him with fights that have consequential fights to a certain extent, or that have substance to them, that you can make a little argument. You can't. These fights, you can't make an argument for the other side. You can't. You really can't. So that's it. Let's go to the next. Go ahead,
well,
Ken.
There was one redemption story. I don't know if we didn't even talk about this one, and I don't know if you saw it, but Gabe Rosado huge upset of Beck the Bully, Bektamir Melikuziev. Guy was just knocking everyone out. Gabe Rosado, tough Philly kid. And I think maybe the 3rd round, it looked like Beck the Bully was just going to beat the crap out of Gabe. And Gabe's so tough, he was starting to get busted up. And he caught Beck coming in as Gabe threw a beautiful overhand right and knocked him out cold.
Listen, you never bet on a guy named the Bully. Don't. Because sooner or later, somebody's going to stand up to him. And it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And it could be a guy with 10 losses, 15 losses, 12 losses. How many losses does Rosado have?
That's a good question. Let me check.
Yeah.
But you know that they brought in Rosado as a good name for them to get on his record. But Gabe Rosado wasn't having it. He looked, it looked very
here's the problem. Here's the problem. When you get handed fights, get handed opponents that you can take care of easily, and you build a guy's record up, you're not doing him a favor. Because somewhere in the future, they're going to have to fight someone like Rosado. They're going to have to fight a guy who maybe he's not as hard a hitter, maybe not as slick, maybe not as whatever, but he's experienced. He's hardened. He's been forged through the fire. He's a fighter. He's a fighter. He's a professional. And these guys, when they get built up, they're not being done a real favor, because then when they got to fight somebody who's a pro, somebody who might not be great in one area, but they're steady. They're reliable. They're dependable.
Gabe's 35 years old, and he's got 41 fights, 26 wins, 13 losses.
There it is. I was right on the button. I didn't know. I didn't have to look. Listen, it was supposed to be another victim. It almost was. But again, two things here. When you name a guy Bully, look out. Because you're kind of not doing him a favor, Ken. Because by giving him that nickname, you're kind of telling him it's okay to bully everyone around. You know, it's okay to just get your way. Because bullies get their way until they don't get their way. Really. They get their way till they don't get their way. You never want to... I remember there was a football team, the coach said, we're going to bully guys, and they had brought me in to talk. I'm not going to go into who they were, but they had brought me in to talk, to speak with some of the NFL teams have brought me in to speak to them. And I was doing my due diligence, and I asked my son to help me obviously get some information on the mentality of the team, the mentality of the coach, because usually the team takes on the mentality of the coach, and they were going to bully everyone. And I said, that's not good. That's not good, because you don't want to. It sounds good to some people, like we're going to bully people around. I get it. If you're going by the definitive, if you're going by the real definitive nature of the speech or the definitive interpretation of the word bully. You're going to push people. All right, I kind of get it, but in my world, you don't want to use the word bully because it means you're taking advantage of someone. It means you're bullying someone. It means you're intimidating somebody. It means you're kind of getting away with kind of not always having to face something, but bullies sometimes get away with just being bullies until someone shows up and punches them in the nose. And then all of a sudden, well, now they got to behave like something other than a bully. And so I would never, ever refer to somebody bully because for me, that's not a positive. And so, again, you build these guys' record up, and then you think you're picking a victim, but you're picking a guy who knows how not to be bullied. You're picking a guy that is not going to give you a free ride. You're picking a guy that has experience, who's been there, and knows how to behave. Even if he's getting beat up because you're faster, you're younger, you're stronger, but he still knows how to behave. And you need to be prepared for that. And when sometimes the managers don't do these guys or promoters favors by just building them up. You know that old commercial, pay me now or pay me later? I say that to the fighters all the time. Pay me now, baby, or pay me later. Because either way, you got to pay. You got to pay. You pay now by facing the music, by learning what you got to learn, by understanding, by getting answers, by getting your questions answered, by getting answers to your questions. Can I handle this? You got to get an answer to that. What will I be able? You got to get an answer to that. And you're better off getting it now than later. And so it's no shock. Those things are no shock. Let's move on.
Yep. Next up, Anderson Silva wins a split decision in his boxing match against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who just... Man, this guy can't get out of his own way. But Anderson Silva looked really good, I thought. Got a split decision. I thought it was probably it should have been a unanimous decision. I thought Anderson Silva outclassed him all night. But what'd you think of that one?
First of all, congratulations to Silva. A real gentleman, a real class act. You can't always say that Chavez Jr. is quite a class act. I'm not trying to knock him. But first of all, Silva, a real class act. Iconic, one of the greatest MMA fighters, if not the greatest. Some people could say he's the greatest, and you probably wouldn't get too many arguments. But one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, and he goes into a different sport, into boxing, even though he's a good striker, but still, he goes into boxing, and he beats a former world champion. Congratulations to him, tremendous. And now... let me say something about Chavez. First off, Chavez Jr., why is someone still paying him? And why is anyone watching him? And I don't like to knock him, but sometimes you have to. Why is anyone knocking him anymore? You know, he's destroying the great name of his father to a certain extent. He's made millions. He's made millions off of his name. And listen, I'll give him credit that, yes, you know, he's won some fights against some good fighters, and he won a title. I'll give you all that. But that was a long time ago. And now in the last years in his career, he's come in overweight many times, Ken. He's tested dirty for drugs many times. He has quit in fights. It's a joke. Really. I mean, you know, he's like a spoiled kid who keeps getting what he wants, no matter how bad he is. He parties. He parties. I think it's pretty much public knowledge that he likes to party, comes in overweight, smokes weed and stuff. That's fine if that's what you're... but not if you're fighting. Not if you're having people trust you and say, I'm going to pay to watch you. I'm going to pay for pay-per-view. That's not cool. He comes in heavy all the time. He doesn't care. Why should we care, Ken? I needed to say it the right way, the honest way. Why should we care? I didn't come here. I didn't say last week I'm going to knock I'm going to knock Chavez Jr., but he deserves it. You know, Silva, who's a legendary, as I said, MMA fighter, he beat him. He's not a boxer, but he beat him. And it wasn't a great fight, but Silva won mostly because he cared more. He cared more than Chavez did, Ken. He cared more. Obviously, he came in shape. He came ready. He did his proper preparation. Chavez stood in front. He pressed the fight, but Silva, he didn't do anything. He stood in front a lot of rounds doing nothing. Silva moved a lot with his legs early on, especially on the outside. Moved nicely on his legs. Hey, he's got good legs, even at his age. He did more than Chavez, who didn't throw much, and when he did, he threw one punch at a time. You know, like I said, I'm happy for Silva, who, again, we say the truth here. He's basically a shot fighter in the MMA. He went beyond his time, and it broke my heart. I did a piece on him. People could look it up on our podcast. It's in the archives, talking about him, one of the old lions, and just broke my heart to see him getting beat by guys that he would have beat 5 years ago, taking nothing away from the guys that beat him, but getting knocked out by guys that he would have had his way with 5 years ago. It broke my heart to see, just the same as it broke my heart to see Muhammad Ali, you know, getting in there with Holmes or whoever at the end when it wasn't Ali anymore. Or it broke my heart to see Joe Louis when I watched the tapes of him in there with Marciano. Great Marciano, great. Marciano's great. But that Joe Louis wasn't Joe Louis. That wasn't Joe Louis that he knocked out. And these guys stayed too long. And sometimes. And to see Silva stays the greatest of all time, to see him stay too long in MMA, it was sad. It was sad. And he shouldn't have been fighting anymore. But he gets a reward here. It's nice. Nobody deserves it more. It's beautiful. That's the one good thing about it. That he got something, you know, for being a good person and for being a great champion. He got a nice reward. He beat a former champion, albeit all the things I just said negative about Chavez, but he went into a different sport. He won. He gets that. He deserves it. I'm happy for him. I was thinking, you know, Ken, it must have been nice for him, who, you know, he's been knocked out, Silva, and he's fought way past, he's in his 40s. He's fought way past his prime. But it must have been nice to put on 10-ounce gloves and not those freaking 4-ounce things that are basically bare fist, bare knuckle, that he's getting hit with in the MMA. And to go in there, it must have felt like sleeping on a nice pillow. It must, for him, for that warrior, and he's a warrior, my God, for that warrior, what a gift it must have been to say, oh, I can wear 10 ounce? Wow. I mean, Jesus. I'm used to basically fighting with bare knuckles almost. And wow. He must have been like, gee, this is like kiddie stuff, you know, in his mind. You know, he must have been like, what's the name of that golf where you take the kids with the windmills?
Miniature golf or putt-putt?
Yeah, putt-putt. It's like going to putt-putt. It's like going to miniature golf. He must have said, oh, my goodness, you're giving me 10-ounce gloves? Wow. I mean, this is unbelievable. So, anyway, he went in there. He beat Chavez. What can I say? I don't know why anybody would pay Chavez Jr. Listen, Chavez Sr. is one of the greatest fighters of all time. He's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Mexican fighters of all time. You know, you talk about the greatest Mexican fighters of all time. I mean, there's so many great ones, but Chavez's name is always either at or near the top of the list, Chavez Sr. So I could only imagine how his father must have felt.
Which is what I was going to say. Chavez Sr. was in action in the main event against Hector Camacho Jr. Chavez, 58 years old, will be 59 in 1 month on July 12th. I don't know. Did you get a chance to see that one? And if so, what'd you think?
No, I didn't see it, but I don't have to. I don't
You
have
don't want
to
to watch 58-year-old guys fight?
Listen, 58. I love Chavez Senior. I love him. He's a great fighter. I said it already. Mickey Duff, the great Mickey Duff, who's not with us anymore. He was one of the greatest boxing minds of all time. Great promoter. Ran everything in London for years. He was very witty. He would always come up with these sayings. He would have called this fight a has-been versus a never was. And you don't want to knock anyone. You don't want to. But really, when it comes down to charging money to watch this stuff, you gotta be honest with the people out there. Otherwise, why do I have a microphone here? Like I said, I didn't see it, but come on. I mean, now Camacho Jr. Look, his dad was great, world champion in several weight classes. His dad was great. Tragic ending, tragic life. They did a documentary on him on Showtime too, but. Great speed. Some of the greatest speed you're ever going to see was in the hands of Camacho Sr. He was great, and he had a great chin. You wouldn't think about that with a guy who wore the kind of outfits he wore, and called himself Macho Time and Macho Man and danced around, but he had a great chin. He was tough. He had a great chin. But Camacho Jr., his son, listen, he wasn't special when he was young. And again, I'm not here to knock, so I'm here to tell the truth. I called his fights on ESPN when he was young. He wasn't special then. He was a defensive fighter. He tried to fight, defensively, and be obviously responsible and smart. There was nothing he did great. He wasn't a puncher, anything. He wasn't great speed like his father had. Why he wasn't great when he was young? Why are we watching him now? I mean, why does someone think that's a good idea? And as far as Chavez Sr., like I said, Ken, one of the greatest fighters of all time, one of the greatest Mexicans of all time. For me, it's and not in his order, but for me, you talk about the greatest Mexicans of all time: Chavez, Salvador Sanchez, Carlos Zarate, Ruben Olivares. Listen, there's other guys, Juan Manuel Marquez and, all those guys, and Barrera. They're all great. They're more of the modern era. I get it. But as far as starting with the top four, I think it's the guys I just said. Chavez is right there. Why put him in now at this age, 58 years old, with a fighter who, again, you're not trying to make fun of someone, but he couldn't carry his water, okay? He couldn't carry his water. It's just, I don't think it's right. What are we doing? Does he need money? If he needs money, it happens to some of these fighters, and it's tragic. He made a lot of money. It's tragic. It's sad if he needs money. But then, for me, then there should be a pension like the NFL, has. But he shouldn't have to do this. We should do better for a guy like that. Really. I know boxing's got all its freaking problems because there's no czar, I've always called, I tried to get it with the late, great Senator McCain. But, there should be a pension. It's never going to happen. But there should be a pension in boxing. So great fighters like Chavez wouldn't have to do this. So that's it. That's it for me. I'm out.
Well, before I let you go, did you get a chance to see the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder press conference, the announcement of the trilogy fight? Deontay Wilder spent the entire press conference not answering questions with headphones on. The whole thing was like a sideshow. I mean, you want us to tune in to see the fight, answer the damn questions. It's like I was saying earlier with the dig in the hole. Deontay Wilder's in a hole. Someone should tell him to stop digging. He's making excuses. He's showing up acting like a jerk at the press conference. You want people to tune in, hype the fight, tell us you're going to kill him, do something. Don't just sit there with your headphones on. It almost looks like he's scared. He doesn't want to address. He's afraid to address maybe all the different excuses that he's make from his. I mean, you think of all the excuses. His suit's too heavy. He was drugged. The water. Mark Breland was out to get him. They put something in Fury's gloves. He's made all these claims. None of them have any There's nothing to substantiate any of these allegations. I don't know. Anyway, what'd you think of the press conference?
Listen, Ken, everything you said is fair, accurate, right? First of all, Wilder doesn't have the greatest personality. He's not the greatest promoter in the world. Like Floyd Mayweather and some of these are, you go over to the UFC, which of course we're very blessed to have those fans with us on the podcast and talking about the UFC and, Conor McGregor and those guys. They all know how to promote, or most of them. Some of them are better than others. McGregor's special. Mayweather was special. Muhammad Ali was special. But they also had a special charisma. He doesn't really have that charisma. He really don't. It's sometimes hard to like him. When he did say something like you said, come out there and say I'm going to do this. When he did at the end say that, he said I'm going to decapitate him, or he said I'm going to, what did he say? It's going to be bloody and I'm going to chop his head off. I mean, to me it doesn't. I'd rather hear something else. And especially after he sat there with his headphones on. I think it's kind of besides being ridiculous, it's a little, well, maybe it's not ridiculous. Maybe he's got a method and a plan for it, which I'll talk about in a second. But it's still a little disrespectful. Maybe not even a little. It's a lot disrespectful to the fans, to the promoters. Not that anyone really has to respect some of these guys like Aram, because they haven't always been respectful themselves, quite frankly. And again, we tell the truth here. I don't care. But still, you should be respectful to the sport, to the process, to the idea of a press conference, to the fans that are tuning into it. And he wasn't really. He wasn't. But look, the main thing is to win. We've seen it in sports. We've seen it in life, that if you win in the end, people kind of all forgive and people forget, and that's the main thing. And maybe that's all he's concentrating on, and I get it. I could see the possibility of that, where I could see two sides to it, where wearing the headphones was almost an admission that Fury gets into his head, or has gotten into his head. It is, Ken. It's like he's admitting that. And this is being used to keep him out of my head. He's renting space in my freaking head, and I'm trying to kick him out. And this is the only way I can get him, from squatting in my head. From squatting in my head again. So that's part of it. For me to put a reasonable spin on it of what it could be. And I think that's reasonable. It could be both. You could also say he doesn't want him in his head, but and because he's concentrated solely on a fight, he doesn't want distractions. So you could also say that he's just concentrated on a fight. It's all about winning, and he knows that he did get in his head in the past. Maybe he's making an admission without meaning to, but this time it doesn't matter. That this is solely about the fight. I'm going to have no freaking distractions. I'm not going to... One of the strengths of Fury is the mind game. His strength is that he's versatile. He can box. He moves really agile with a lot of... in an agile way for a big man, giant man, 6'7", 280, whatever he is. He's talking about coming in 300. I don't know if that's a good idea, but whatever. You never know with Fury. But he's a comedian. He's a salesman. He's a promoter. But his gifts are many. He can box. He showed in the last fight he could walk you down, which, he hadn't really shown that except in a fight where he got cut. He did that. But other than that, he was always a boxer with Klitschko when he won the title first, the linear title. He boxed with an older Klitschko. He boxed the first time, of course, with Wilder. Then he showed, again, another dimension. He could walk to him and do that. So we understand his gifts, but part of his gifts is to also get into your head. Psychology, like Muhammad Ali used to do. So maybe like Floyd Mayweather did a little bit. So you could also give credit to Wilder. A lot of people are going to be surprised at this direction I'm going in. and say that just like if you know a guy has a good jab, you take his jab away, you slip it, or you counter with right hand to stop it. Well, if you know a guy is good psychologically at getting into your head, you take that away from him. And this was his way of taking that away from him, Ken. I give him credit for that. This is his way of saying, you know what, I'm not going to let him use that strength. I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to let him use that ability. I'm going to block him out. So I look at it that way. Everything I look at is boxing, fighting. And I look at it that way strategically, that's what he was doing. And I think he probably was saying, I'm not going to let him get into my freaking head. I've been susceptible, but you know what? Not this time. So if that's why he did it, and I believe it probably is, give him credit for that. He's thinking about the physical preparation, also the mental preparation by blocking him out. And this is how he's going to prepare by, again, locking him out. But then the face-off, they said it was 5 minutes. I thought it was longer. It felt like it was longer than 5 minutes. I'll be honest with you. It was almost uncomfortable. But it felt longer. It felt a lot longer. But whatever it was, I didn't have a stopwatch on it. But in the end, that was telling. And I'll tell you why, Ken. They were both looking for an edge. They're both looking to win the preliminary fight, the psychological fight. You know, Fury might have, in his mind, won the first part of it by facing him, by going up there and making this guy submit to headphones, where he's basically admitting, I gotta do something to get him out of my head. So in his mind, he's thinking, I got him. I already got him because he had to go to headphones. So in that way, but this was more basic. This was more traditional boxing, where the face-offs is part of the tradition of boxing. And this was more tangible, where you could pick a winner or loser. And I'll tell you where I'm going. They stood there for all that time, whatever amount of time it was, facing off. And it's not just a traditional thing to do. It's part of the pre-fight stuff. It's like the first battle before the battle. There's 3 parts of the battle. If you're not a heavyweight, there's 3 parts. Even heavyweight. You got to make weight. You got to deal with the face-off. And then, of course, you got to get in the ring. So the face-off, who blinks first? Who wins the psychological battle of making the other guy look away? And don't think that this isn't important to fighters, Ken. It's huge. It's huge. Because it's about the mental state of how you go in a ring, how confident you are. And if you can feel that you've bullied your opponent, I'm using that name, that I don't want to use that. But if you think that you intimidated your opponent, if you think you made your opponent give in, show weakness, show a flaw, you're a little more confident going in. And that can mean a lot. That can mean a lot. And for me, with all that standing, all that staring, all the crap with the headphones before that, everything else, this was a little tangible. Because after all that time, who blinked first? Who looked away? Wilder did. Yeah, it got crazy. It got uncomfortable. Even the promoters, you could hear the talking in the back. What's going on here? Who's going to break this up? Don't touch him. Who's going to break this up? When's this going to stop? Are we going to miss dinner? Because I think Bob was thinking about his 5 o'clock martini, you know? And yeah, I mean, I think so, maybe. And so, you know, he's got to have that. And so they were getting a little nervous. Like, how long is this freaking thing going to go on? And then all of a sudden, excuse it, make excuses, do whatever you want. But it was up to the 2 fighters. And both camps came next to them a little bit and whatever. And who broke first? Wilder. He broke first. He did. Whatever reason, you could say whatever you... I'm telling you, I've been in this sport my whole life. It means something. Listen, it's still going to come down to who lands the punches. I get it. But the mental state is so important. Wilder blinked first. He looked away. With all the bravado and all the words he used, I'm going to chop his head off, I'm going to decapitate him, I'm going to whatever words it was. I can't remember what it was. But whatever it was, at the end, Fury didn't turn away. He did. He did. That meant something to me. At the end of the day, that meant we'll see. We'll see. At the end of the day, hey, they got to get in the ring. They got to fight the freaking fight. But, you know, you could even hear his corner people. You could even hear Fury, if you listen to it. After he turned away and walked away, Wilder being he, you could hear Fury and his people saying, see, he ran away. He walked away. He ran away. Yeah. So they're right. He did. I'm not saying he ran away, but they're right in their mind. In what was going on, there was a reason nobody was buckling for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever minutes it was. There was a reason nobody was buckling. And then finally somebody buckled. And they had the opportunity to say, see, you ran away. See, you walked away. See, we beat you. That's what I got out of it.
Yep. Well, that one will certainly be an entertaining fight. I'm sure everyone will be tuning in to see that. Teddy, before we sign off, I just want to give a quick shout out to Bardia over at PremierFightPicks.com. He had another big weekend of picking winners. He currently has a max bet posted for this weekend's UFC main event with Cyril Gane and Alexander Volkov. Be sure to subscribe at PremierFightPicks.com. Bardia has been on a tear as of late. Teddy, thanks for doing it this week. I know we covered a lot, and I appreciate you. Glad you got some time with the family and LBI. Always good to see you.
Always good to see you. Give my best to your family, your beautiful family.
Same to you, and thanks for everyone for being with us. We'll be back with you next week. Thank you.